Two murder investigations from the case files of Lt.Joe Kenda.
You all will die today!
First, a family affair spirals out of control.
Oh my God, Dad!
There was no justice.
And Kenda must figure out why.
Whatever happened started right here.
Drop the keys out the window. Do it now.
You're being handled here at gunpoint.
Back off the car.
Don't do something stupid.
Then, a church of God turns into a house of horrors.
I am the Lord Jesus Christ!
They were praying for their lives.
He has an inherent violence about him.
Don't touch the knife, Richard.
He's not complying. He's just kind of staring right through us.
Don't do it, Richard!
In my business, you become a very light sleeper. I had a lot of people wanted to kill me, among other things. If I would hear any noise, I was awake. I was not just awake, I was wide awake. This is the way our life was. It was from one event to the next.
There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim.
If you kill, I will find you.
It's the middle of the night. Larry and Kelly Schlott are asleep. When all of a sudden,
Larry, what's that?
Sounds like someone's at the front door.
Who the hell could it be at this hour of the night?
I don't know. I'll go check it out. Stay here.
Larry, what are you doing?
Larry picks up a baseball bat. He's ready to use it if he has to.
Louise?
But he's shocked when he opens the door.
Okay.
His neighbor Louise is crying and frantic.
It's Peter. He's been shot. I don't have a weapon. I need you to help me.
She knew that Larry knew CPR, so she asked him to come render aid to Pete.
Oh my God. Pete! 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 Oh my God.
Obviously has serious injuries.
Hold on, Pete. You with me, buddy?
Larry knows it's not working. It's not going to be able to save him.
A few miles north, Sergeant Joe Kenda is struggling with his own personal battle.
I don't sleep well. And I would often slip out the front door and be on my front porch and smoke a cigarette and think about all the things I've done and all the things I've seen and cannot unsee. And now here we go again.
Within the hour, Kenda arrives on scene and meets with Detective Skip Arms.
Hey, Skip.
Evening, Joe.
When I arrived on scene, there was very little activity going on. There was no traffic in the streets. It was really very quiet. So what we got?
We've got one shooting victim, shot multiple times. He left here in the ambulance alive, but we're not sure what his status is now.
You got an ID?
Yes.
The officer says that the victim is a 35-year-old male whose name is Peter Martinez. He was shot in the front yard of his own home.
Any witnesses?
Martinez's wife and kids were in the house at the time of the shooting, but they've gone to the hospital with him in the ambulance. That's about it.
They've already awakened several of their direct neighbors, all of whom say they didn't see anything. So the only thing left for us there is the crime scene itself. You can learn a lot from a crime scene if you listen and pay attention. The crime scene will speak to you. It will whisper, but it will speak to you.
The victim was lying here when the medical arrived.
What's that?
Looks like a crescent wrench.
Let's make sure we have that dusted for prints. It would appear that the crescent wrench would have some role in this situation. It potentially could have either been an offensive or a defensive weapon.
We also got some casings over here.
How many?
5 total, 25 caliber.
We also found slugs in the yard, too.
The front yard appeared to be trampled down, so that indicated that perhaps there was some kind of struggle that may have occurred on the yard and then moved into the street.
Whatever happened started right here.
My experience tells me there's a confrontation. Words get exchanged, threats are made, things get out of hand, and it ends with gunfire.
Which hospital was the victim transported to?
St. Francis.
Okay, Skip, I'll meet you there.
Looks to me.
So for now, we've learned all we can here. We need to respond to the hospital where our victim is to determine A, his condition, and more importantly, B, because that's where we believe we're going to find our witnesses.
Mr. Martinez was shot 5 times in all. Once in the shoulder, chest, stomach, and twice in the arm. He's in surgery now, but he looks doubtful. You know, another thing that you should probably be aware of is that the medics said they found him in his boxer shorts when they first picked him up.
Really?
The odds are he was either getting ready for bed or was already in bed. And when he was awakened by something, he came out in his underwear, and whatever happened next resulted in 5 holes in him that he didn't have a little while earlier.
Was his family around?
His wife and children in the lobby.
Yeah, thanks, Doc.
So we encounter first the wife of the victim, Louise, and she has 2 sons that are with her, Peter Jr. and Eric.
Excuse me. I'm Sergeant Kenda, and this is Detective Irons.
I'm Louise.
Do you think we could talk to you for a minute with you and your sons?
Well, I'd prefer if they had a little more time, but I can talk to you.
They're worried about their father. No point in even attempting a conversation with them.
Could you tell us a little bit about your relationship with your husband?
Well, we aren't technically married, but Peter and I have been together for over 15 years.
And everything was good between you guys?
Yeah, we had a good relationship. We actually work together, so we argue sometimes, but nothing serious.
Peter and Louise are both custodians at a building downtown. Doesn't pay a lot of money and it's hard work, but they get to work together and they enjoy that. And it's something that Louise really is happy about, that she gets to spend her days working with the love of her life.
So what exactly happened last evening?
Well, Peter and I were working and we got home around 10:30.
They went in to check on their boys, and they then made their way to bed.
I'm exhausted. What do we have going on tomorrow, babe?
Eric's got baseball in the afternoon, and I'm meeting Lucy for lunch.
All right, well, I think I'm just gonna go get some stuff for this weekend.
Wake up, Peter!
Who the hell's that?
Oh, man.
He goes and opens the door. And it's his sister, Karen Michaels.
What's up, brother? You gonna let me in or what?
And her friend Lucia, and they are both extremely intoxicated.
Hey, Louise, let's have a drink.
They had been at a party, and they came over there to keep the party underway.
Peter and his sister get along?
Sort of. I mean, Karen can be a real pain in the ass.
He was really sometimes super annoyed with her because of her manners and why she lived her life the way she did, of which he did not approve. He thought she drank too much and too often, and so on. So there's always this back and forth between he and his sister, and now his sister's at his front door.
At first, Peter was annoyed, but after a while, he started to loosen up and relax.
I don't know what either one of you are talking about.
I remember the old days.
No, you don't.
And they open some beers, and they turn on some music, and they're talking, and they're actually enjoying themselves.
I hope they do another block party. Yeah, I gotta take a leak. I'll be back.
Everything seemed to be going well.
What's that song?
You can change it. If you want. The stereo's in Junior's room. Just try to be quiet. He's sleeping. You want another?
Yeah. You know me.
But all of a sudden, something happened.
And Louise heard some type of a commotion in Peter Jr.'s room.
You ass! Come on, Lucia, let's go.
Wait, why?
I said, come on, let's get the hell out of here.
What happened? Karen, what's wrong?
Ask your dead husband.
Louise asked Peter what happened, and his response was, oh, that's just Karen. Good riddance, I'm glad she's gone. They then went to bed.
Not 30 minutes after we laid down, we heard people shouting outside.
Come out here, you ass! Peter, come outside, jackass!
Damn it, Karen!
Louise looks out the window.
Get your ass out here, you prick!
She sees two cars, a red car and a gray car. And there's a bunch of people out there, and she doesn't know who these people are.
What were they saying?
I don't know, but they sounded upset.
So Louise is going to call 911 to report this problem.
911, what's your emergency?
But before she can say a word,
Hi, there's... So I dropped the phone and I ran outside. The red car was gone and the gray one was pulling away. And Peter was just lying there in the street, all alone.
Do you think Karen could have shot Peter?
I don't think so. I mean, it's her own brother.
Okay, you said you saw a gray car. Do you know what type of car it was?
Yeah, I think so.
Having this information at hand, it's important for us to try to find the gray car,
Sergeant Kenda, dispatch.
and the occupants of the car.
How do you put on APB?
so we offer the description of the suspect vehicle over the air to all officers, all points bulletin, a suspect vehicle in what probably is a fatal shooting, consider armed and dangerous.
Luckily, it doesn't take long for an officer to spot the vehicle in question.
31 to dispatch.
Dispatch to 31.
Got eyes on that possible suspect vehicle. Go ahead and send me back up 2000 block of Corona Street.
We basically call it a felony traffic stop.
Driver, turn off the car and drop the keys out the window.
They fear that the occupants are potentially involved in a serious violent felony crime.
Do it now.
So the driver was directed to exit first.
Driver, step out, slowly. Keep your hands where I can see them.
He was a tall, black male, which didn't fit the descriptions.
Back up to the sound of my voice. Do it now.
Passenger, step out of the car. Do it now.
When the passenger steps out of the car,
Hands on your head.
she is Karen Michaels, sister of the victim. How convenient. So now we do have the right car, and we certainly have the right people. Now this situation has become dangerous. We're investigating the shooting of a father of two children, Peter Martinez. And patrol officers have just stopped a car that was seen fleeing from the scene,
Driver, step out, slowly.
containing an occupant that was involved in a disturbance with the victim.
On your knees.
You're being handled here at gunpoint. Don't do something stupid.
Don't move.
Because of the short time frame between the shooting and the contact of this vehicle,
All right, stand up.
the chances were very high the occupants were involved in the crime.
Put your hands behind your back. Do it now.
So they had to be treated as potentially violent felony suspects.
It's clear. Clear.
So the two occupants were driven to the Detective Bureau. And once there, they were placed in separate rooms.
So what do you want to do?
Why don't you take Karen and I'll talk to this guy?
Works for me.
This individual identifies himself as Hank Michaels, and he is Karen Michaels' husband. And they have this car registered in both of their names.
Is someone gonna finally tell me what the hell is going on?
I was actually hoping that you'd be the one to do that.
We know Karen left the house upset. Did she go home and tell her husband that she had this fight with her brother? And did he come back over to the house in his gray car to avenge his wife?
How'd you end up going for a drive with your wife so early in the morning?
Man, I was sleeping. And Karen came home all worked up.
He says his wife woke him up when she came home. She said she got in a terrible fight with her brother, and she wants him to drive her to her mother's house.
And you didn't ask what went on between her and Peter?
No, always arguing about something. And besides, Karen was drunk, and I did not want to get her going. So I just drove her to her mother's house.
And as they were in the act of doing that, they're stopped by the police, and they got guns pointed at him, and he doesn't know what's going on.
So you never went to Peter's house at all?
No, not at all.
So there's Hank's story. Is that believable? Well, maybe it is. Think back to Louise. Louise says she sees Karen with some people. If this guy is there to defend his wife, he's the one knocking on the door.
So we try to find a record for Hank. He doesn't have a record. He's clean. At face value, there's no reason to believe he's being deceptive to us. So now our next step is to want to talk with Karen and see where that takes us.
Wake up, Miss Michaels.
What the hell are you doing?
I want to talk to you about your brother.
Which brother?
Karen Michaels is beyond drunk. She's loaded, and she couldn't hit the ground with her hat.
Your brother Peter? Peter Martinez?
What about him?
He was shot 5 times. Do you happen to know who did that to him?
I ain't talking until I get a lawyer.
Well, you're drunk, Karen, but you know enough to keep your mouth shut when you're in a jam. And guess what, baby cakes? You are in a jam.
All right. Well, we're still going to hold you for the time being.
Whatever.
So have we gotten very far? No. We have her, which is useful, but she has nothing to say to us. So now we need another pathway to find out who we're looking at.
So we felt that with some time passing, we would want to circle back and see if either Louise knew anything new or if by this point, either of her sons were willing to talk.
Have you received any word on your husband?
He went in for another surgery, so we're just here to get something to eat before heading back.
We were wondering if either one of your sons might be able to talk to us.
I really don't think Eric is, but Junior could probably talk to you. Junior, come here for a minute.
Peter Jr. is in high school. We think he's our best shot because he's a little older and maybe a little less emotional.
Want to have a seat?
And maybe a little more honest.
Junior, did you happen to see any of what happened to your father last night?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what happened?
I was sleeping in my bedroom when my Aunt Karen woke me up. Aunt Karen, what's going on?
How do you work this thing?
They had long lengths of speaker wire coming from the stereo in the son's bedroom to the speakers in the living room area. Peter Jr. says she wants to change the music, that she can't make this thing operate.
Aunt Karen! Karen, what the hell are you doing in here? Damn it, Karen, don't be disrespecting my house. Just look at my son!
The year radio's crap.
Karen, get the hell out of my son's room now.
Oh, shut up. What you gonna do?
He slaps her open hand in the face hard.
You're always walking around here drunk asking me for money. You don't respect no one. Get out of here.
Go to hell, Peter, you asshole!
She stormed out of the room and my dad told me to go back to sleep. But a little while later, something woke me up again.
Wake up, Peter!
He was awakened, so he gets up in a haze. Looks out the window, he sees his aunt, Karen Michaels. Her children are with her.
What are you doing, you crazy
And they are in an argument.
Did you see what happened?
Well, I ran outside and tried to help. Dad!
What's going on?
Off my property.
Whatever.
Man, you, Karen? Get the out of here.
Dad!
Junior, go get my gun.
And the kid says, I didn't know what he meant because we don't have a gun. I guess he was trying to bluff him.
Hey, calm down. Calm down.
Apparently it worked because he saw Karen and the kids start retreating.
I went back inside because I thought it was over, but it wasn't.
Peter Jr. says
Oh my God, Dad!
he heard several gunshots.
As the gray car drove away, Peter Jr. tells us that he was able to see the person that was in the passenger seat, and that is most likely our shooter. This is the break we need.
Did you recognize him?
Yes, I know who it is.
This whole search process in this investigation has to be to find a good witness, and we have just discovered a star witness. Now, who might this shooter be? We're investigating the shooting of Peter Martinez, who was gunned down in front of his own home.
Oh my God, Dad!
We've now learned that his son, Peter Jr., got a good look at the shooter.
So what's the guy's name?
Jake Ferguson.
So Jake is our dude. It isn't Karen, and it's certainly not her husband.
Who's Jake Ferguson?
He dates my cousin Nina.
The information that Peter Jr. could give us about Jake is he's a white male, he's about 18 years old or so.
He's only been in town a few weeks, but everybody classifies him as a bully, and everybody knows that Jake always has a gun.
Do you know where we could find this Jake?
I think he's in the army or something.
Thank you for talking to us. Yeah, we'll let ourselves out. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we drive over to Fort Carson, and we'll find out that Mr. Ferguson is living and working on Fort Carson as a private E1 in the United States Army. So we have to elicit the cooperation of military police authorities, and they snatch up Jake Ferguson in a heartbeat.
Jake, I'm with the Colorado Springs Police Department. Do you know why I'm here?
I think so.
You can just see it in his eyes. It's obvious that he's scared. As someone who interviews and interrogates people, you need to gear your questioning based on what you see in order to be effective.
Am I under arrest?
Not at the moment. But I need to know what happened last night.
Okay. I'll tell you everything.
He didn't hold back. He really needed to get this off his chest.
I was at my girlfriend Nina's house, and we had a few beers, watched a movie, and then I fell asleep on the couch when her brother Rico woke me up. Jake, come on, get up, man.
What's going on?
Come on, we've got to go.
Nina?
She's already in the car. We got to help my mom. You got your gun?
Yeah, right.
All right, let's go.
Their brother Rico tells Jake they're going to go settle a fight between Nina's mom and her brother Peter Martinez.
He sees this as an opportunity to be an enforcer, to go help the family defend their honor, so to speak.
Who went to Peter's house?
Karen was hammered, so I drove her car. Nina, Rico, and their other sister Marta were in another car.
Peter, come out here. I want to talk to you.
You ain't gonna hit our mom.
Get your ass out here, Uncle Peter.
I kind of hung back by the car while they went up to the house to confront Peter.
Come out here.
Peter jerked the door open, already in a rage.
Karen, what the f you doing, you crazy bitch?
You a big man hitting a woman,
Get the
Uncle Peter?
off my property!
And is screaming and yelling and using obscenities toward Karen Michaels and her children.
Man, learn to control your kids.
You don't get to tell me what to do with my kids. I'm gonna kick you, Peter.
Beat his ass, Mom.
Jake says a scuffle begins, followed by them falling down and rolling around in the dirt in the front yard.
Beat his ass, Mom.
Off my property!
Jake said that Karen actually pulled Peter's pants off, leaving him just in his underwear. And then she started laughing at him.
you, Karen. Touch me again. Hey, do something.
Dad,
come on.
what's going on?
Hey, Junior, go get my gun. Get in the car. You want me to drive?
So they started heading back to the cars. I go to get in the front, but Karen insisted on driving.
Come on, damn it.
Because Karen was drunk, she was having difficulty getting the car started.
Get the hell out of here. What's wrong with you? Yo, back up the car. What are you, deaf? Are you drunk and stupid? Huh?
So back off the car, old man.
What'd you call me? Think you're tough, white boy?
Jake says that he then sees Peter reach for his waistband and pull out an object he said was long and shiny.
Jake panics. And empties that gun into Peter Martinez from a range of 3 or 4 feet. And every bullet he fires hits him.
Oh, damn. Oh, damn. Give me the gun. Give me the gun. It's not like he wasn't asking for it.
Even though she was still pretty intoxicated, the fact that she didn't care whether or not her brother just got shot is pretty callous.
What did Karen do with the gun?
I don't know. I think she has it somewhere in the house.
Well, Jake, I appreciate you being honest with me, but I'm gonna have to place you under arrest. Go ahead and cuff him.
Peter Martinez has been pronounced dead at the hospital. So now it's no longer attempted murder, it's just murder.
After Jake Ferguson's confession, investigators go to the house of Karen Michaels in search of the murder weapon.
We find a .25 caliber semi-automatic pistol that's obviously been wiped clean, but ballistics says this is the weapon that fired the shots that killed Peter Martinez.
Jake was charged with second-degree murder. Karen was charged with accessory to the second-degree murder. And then the district attorney ultimately made the decision to take this case to a grand jury. And after the case was presented to the grand jury, they came back with a no true bill.
Meaning that, in their opinion, there's insufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Jacob Ferguson engaged in criminal behavior. So Mr. Ferguson was released without charges, and therefore so was Karen Michaels. And the matter was closed.
You know, it's the kind of thing where really there was no justice. No justice for Peter, no justice for his family, because nobody had to be accountable for what happened to him. Had Peter gone back in the house, closed the door, you know, would he still be alive today? Just makes you wonder. It was just a sad set of circumstances that cost somebody their life.
Mix old family hatreds, loss of control of your emotions, and alcohol, and it often results in violent death. That's a terribly sad thing in the case of Peter Martinez.
Coming up, an unhinged madman threatens the safety of an entire church congregation.
You all will die today.
This is St. Mary's Cathedral. How could this have happened in here?
In January of 1996, the church service was going on. It was Sunday morning, downtown.
How are you?
Near the end of the first service, an usher, Ron Meredith, is passing the collection plate, like they do every Sunday. But a man is sitting in the back and just seemed a little out of it.
These people don't know what the hell they're doing.
Give it to me. Excuse me, sir. That's not yours. Give it to me, damn it. Give me that.
There was a lot of confusion.
Sir, back off.
Ron is able to grab it, and the deranged man told everybody,
I am the Lord Jesus Christ, and you all will die today.
That made people very, very nervous.
Honey, call the police.
Later that morning, Lt.Joe Kenda is on his way into work.
Dispatch to X-ray 1.
The radio cracks and it said 1 X-ray 1. My call sign.
Go for X-ray 1.
Report of a shooting on Bijou Street. Redirect immediately.
Copy that. I'm on the way.
Ooh. On a Sunday morning when this town is either in church or still asleep? Pretty unusual. I arrived at the address before I realized it's the St. Mary's Church. It's a huge church and beautiful building. Been there for many, many years. My parents got married there in 1938.
Good morning, Lieutenant.
Morning. So what in the world's going on here?
Come inside, take a look.
So I walk in that church, as I had done many times. I'm directed to the men's room.
Whoa.
This is St. Mary's Cathedral. How could this have happened in here?
Less than an hour before Lieutenant Kenda arrived on scene, chaos was just beginning to unfold at St. Mary's.
Hello, 911?
911, what's your emergency?
A man just tried to steal from our church, and then he threatened to kill us. And I'm afraid he's going to try to come back.
We'll send units immediately.
Okay, thank you.
CSPD officers immediately respond, including patrolman Robert Benjamin.
In January of '96, I was in the patrol division.
Who here put in the call? Yeah, right here, we did. Is the suspect still inside?
No, he fled. Came in, tried to take our collection plate, and threatened everybody.
Where's the rest of the congregation?
They're inside.
Okay. Can you describe this guy?
Well, he's a pretty big guy.
Mr. Meredith told me he was kind of a stocky build, about 180 pounds.
As Ron is talking to the police, something interesting happened.
Yeah, I think I know this guy. His name's Deersmith. Richard Deersmith.
You sure about that?
Yeah, things happen pretty quickly in there, but I'm pretty sure it's him.
So now they're just looking for a description. They're looking for Richard Deersmith.
Give me a moment, please. Gulf 85 to dispatch. Trying to get an APB and a white male. 6'2", 180 pounds, named Richard Deersmith.
When officers call in the suspect's name,
Patrol, did you say Deersmith?
it immediately raises red flags.
That's right.
You have a pen handy?
So they find out that Mr. Deersmith has a rather extensive criminal record.
So apparently our suspect has been arrested 17 times in 3 different states. 2 of those were for assaulting an officer.
So you take that in sum, and this not only is a disturbed person, but he has an inherent violence about him. And he's physically capable of carrying it out.
We have his name and description out there. We're looking for him. You call us if anything else happens.
Thank you so much.
The police leave the scene and start looking for the suspect in the neighborhood.
He resides in the area. Witnesses in his neighborhood report they saw Deersmith leave his house carrying his large knife, which they say is routine for him. He's always ranting out loud and talking to himself or to invisible people, and they are very frightened of him. He's obviously deeply disturbed.
While officers are busy canvassing the area, the congregation picks up where it left off.
A reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthian brothers and sisters. Strive eagerly for the greatest spiritual gifts. Love is patient.
At that time,
love is kind.
Richard Deersmith returns to the church. And this time,
I am the sound of God.
He's got a knife in a sheath on his belt.
And if I have the gift of prophecy, to comprehend all mysteries.
Deersmith did something kind of interesting and maybe unexpected. That he went straight to the bathroom. people who really deserve a lot of credit, the quick-thinking ushers.
We need to get the police back out here.
Hey! I said get me out of this room!
Within moments, Officer Benjamin and company are back on the scene.
God will punish you for this!
He's been going crazy in there.
Hey! Hey!
Does he have any weapons on him? Yeah, he's got a knife.
We're gonna get out of this room!
Lots of thoughts going through my head, knowing we have a combative suspect in front of us.
Okay, let's get out of here.
It was not the first time that he had been involved in potential violence towards police.
The three officers go to the door.
Somebody get me out of here!
Unlock the door.
Hands up, Richard! Put your hands up, Richard. Hands up! Don't do that, Richard.
The ushers hear somebody say, "Don't do it, buddy. Don't do it."
Richard, no! Don't do it, Richard! Stop!
The church services continue after the dust settles from the emotion of this event. And it's no more than a few minutes after the officers leave, Richard Deersmith comes back in the church. He has a knife, and he's locked in a bathroom.
Hands up, Richard! Hands up!
The police open the door, guns drawn, because they didn't know what they were going to find.
Hey! Richard, stop!
The ushers heard a gunshot, and they thought, God, what is going on in there?
That's when the officers come out. And on their radio,
We need a medical down at the church right now.
a shooting officer involved. As I walk in, I see Richard Deersmith lying dead on the floor with a single gunshot wound in the upper left chest. And you stand there for a moment in that doorway and you look in this men's room and you think, why would that happen? We need to find that out.
Shortly after Kenda examines the crime scene, an investigator from the district attorney's office arrives to assist.
On any officer-involved shooting, the district attorney's office is called immediately.
And there's definitely still a lot to figure out.
Okay. Well, I'm going to need to talk to everybody involved.
Of course.
The district attorney's office conduct all police officer-involved shootings independently of the police department. They are investigating why is it necessary for the police to use great force to effect his arrest.
So we teamed all of our investigators and detectives up together and started interviewing all the potential witnesses.
The eyewitness interviews help investigators piece together exactly what happened when Deersmith returned to the church.
When the ushers at the church saw Deersmith come back,
I am a sound God or a collection symbol.
with a knife,
And if I have the gift of prophecy,
they were scared. As they had the opportunity to lock him in the bathroom,
Hey! God will punish you for this! Hey! Let me out!
they found the miracle they were praying for.
When Officer Benjamin responded for the second time,
Oh, God!
he knew the suspect had a history of assaulting police.
I was worried about the safety of the parishioners that were in the church.
Somebody get me
He's
out
been
of
in there going crazy. He's got a knife.
let's go this way.
At the time, all three officers had their hands on their guns. They were ready for anything. They knew he was armed at this point.
Somebody get me out of here!
Please, hands up! Hands up, Richard! Put your hands up, Richard.
Deersmith has the knife. It's a 10-inch blade Bowie knife. Very large knife.
Turn around, Richard. Turn around, walk backward toward me. Turn around.
He's not complying. He's just kind of staring right through us.
Turn around, Richard. Richard, turn around and slowly walk back toward me. Good. Keep your hands visible. Okay, back up toward me. Very good. Hands up. Keep your hands up where I can see them. Nice and slow. Good. Good. Hands up. Do not put that hand down.
Do not touch that knife, Richard!
There's something called a continuum of force, and this is how police officers are trained. You confront someone, you announce to them that they're under arrest. If they physically resist you, you are authorized by law to use whatever force is necessary to overcome that resistance.
Don't do that, Richard. Do not touch that knife! Stop!
I am the Lord Jesus Christ!
These people don't know what the hell they're doing.
Oh, God! Lord, let me out!
Richard, do not touch that knife! Don't do it, Richard! Richard, no! Richard, stop!
He reached for the knife. At that particular point, I knew I had no other option.
The ruling from the district attorney was that the police officer was justified in using deadly force against Mr. Deersmith.
No charges were filed, and the matter was closed. And Mr. Deersmith was left to a higher court.
You never forget it. Quite frankly, it's tough to sleep. You know, it just plays continually in your head, and you eventually come to the conclusion that you had to do what you had to do, and it was necessary, and you know, you just move on from that, but you never forget.
I was very fortunate in all of my years as a policeman, even though I displayed my weapon probably 20,000 times. I never pulled the trigger, never once. We're in the business of saving people, not killing them. Officers try anything to avoid it, and they suffer sometimes for the rest of their days if they're called upon to do it.
The pursuit of justice is a long, arduous road, paved with the heavy stones of grief and the unrelenting demand for truth. For Alicia Cordova, that road began on a quiet Wednesday evening in May 2020, a day that forever altered the geography of her life. It was just before 5:30 in the evening, and the mundane rhythm of household chores was shattered by the frantic voice of her 5-year-old daughter. Capri, the young girl, rushed in from the hallway, her words carrying a weight far beyond her years. Something was terribly wrong with her father, Nick Cordova, a 40-year-old dedicated father and business owner, had been on a video call with his children when the connection was abruptly severed by the sound of a violent disturbance. What Alicia heard through that screen, the chilling echoes of a struggle, the sounds of her husband's life being extinguished in real time, became a haunting soundtrack that has played in her mind for the 6 years she has spent fighting for accountability. Despite a mountain of circumstantial evidence and a community's collective outcry, the halls of justice in Gilbert, Arizona, remain frustratingly silent. No arrests have been made, no charges have been filed, and the case of Nick Cordova lingers in the shadows. A stark reminder of the fragile line between everyday life and inexplicable tragedy. The tragedy unfolded at the offices of Gilbert Air, an HVAC company Nick owned alongside his partner, Dave Sweetman. When the first responders arrived at the scene, the air was thick with the surreal nature of the event. An officer, approaching the office, observed a man peering through the blinds, a man who identified himself as Dave. What followed was a series of actions, so bizarre they defy conventional logic. Dave, appearing visibly distressed, handed the officer a bloodied firearm through the door, claiming it was his own and that he was merely the partner. Inside, the scene told a grim story. Nick lay motionless, his life stolen in a workspace that was meant to be a foundation for his family's future. The investigation that ensued has been a source of profound frustration for the Cordova family. Surveillance footage, meant to be a beacon of clarity, has instead left behind a trail of unanswered questions. The recordings captured 2 suspects entering the building, concealing weapons within an empty box, and ultimately fleeing the scene in a red and silver truck, a vehicle that became the singular focal point of a languishing investigation. Yet, even as the images of these men surfaced, the broader context of the business relationship between Nick and Dave remained shrouded in mystery, characterized by allegations of financial impropriety, suspicious life insurance policies, and a growing sense of dread that Nick had vocalized to his wife in the months leading up to his death. Alicia Cordova, a woman of indomitable spirit, has refused to let her husband's story fade into the archives of cold cases. She has stood in the face of bureaucratic indifference, demanding that the authorities look deeper, peel back the layers of redaction, and acknowledge the inconsistencies that define this investigation. For her, this is not merely about procedural updates or the sterile language of police reports. It is about honoring a man who was a heart of his family and a pillar of his community. She remembers Nick not for the tragedy that ended his life, but for the resilience, the love, and the boundless optimism he brought to every challenge he faced. The culture of a town is often defined by how it treats its most vulnerable and how it upholds the sanctity of justice for those who can no longer speak for themselves. The citizens of Gilbert have shown their support, gathering in the darkness of that first night, waiting for hours in a parking lot, a silent vigil of solidarity that speaks volumes about the man Nick was. Yet, the systemic hurdles, the redacted files, the shifting detectives, the delays in forensic clarity, create a wall that feels increasingly impossible to scale. The allegations surrounding the Gilbert Police Department, ranging from the mismanagement of public records to deeper claims of institutional dysfunction, only amplify the need for transparency. As the years continue to pass, the demand for answers becomes more urgent. The investigative path has taken twists and turns that no one could have predicted, leading into shadows of Dave Sweetman's past, including the mysterious death of his wife, Laura, 7 years prior to the events at Gilbert Air. These connections, often overlooked by official channels, suggest a pattern that demands rigorous scrutiny. Alicia's journey is a testament to the fact that grief, when channeled with purpose, can become a formidable force for truth. She continues to share Nick's story on digital platforms, meeting with officials, and pressing for the day when the suspects in the video are finally brought to justice. For those reading these words, it is important to remember that Nick Cordova was more than a headline or a case file. He was a man who built a life on hard work, who sought to be his own boss to provide for his children, and who carried the weight of his family's future with grace. The pursuit of his killer is not just a legal obligation. It is a moral imperative. Anyone with information regarding the death of Nicholas Nick Cordova is urged to contact the Gilbert Police Department at 480-503-6500. For those who choose to provide information anonymously, the Silent Witness Program remains a vital resource at 480-948-6377. A reward of $20,000 awaits the person who can provide the missing piece of this puzzle. The story of Nick Cordova is a call to action for every community that values truth over convenience. It is a story of a wife's unwavering love, a mother's enduring courage, and a town's necessity to confront its own ghosts. While the road to justice is long and fraught with obstacles, the light of truth remains the only path forward. We must continue to hold the line, to ask the difficult questions, and to ensure that the memory of Nick Cordova is not lost, but rather serves as a catalyst for a more transparent, accountable, and just future for all. As we move forward, let us remember that every life is an irreplaceable story, and that until justice is served, the story of Nick Cordova remains, in the most profound sense, unfinished. The saga of Laura Sweetman remains a haunting testament to the shadows that can linger beneath the facade of a picturesque American life. In the quiet suburb of Gilbert, Arizona, the memory of a dedicated pediatric neurologist, a mother of 3, and a friend of many has been obscured by 12 years of silence. While public discourse surrounding this tragedy has often centered on the polarizing figure of her former husband, Dave Sweetman, a deeper examination of the case reveals a chilling lack of institutional rigor. Leaving a grieving family and a community with nothing but questions, Laura Sweetman was a woman who embodied the American dream in its most aspirational form. An alumnus of Fallbrook Union High School in California, she navigated the rigorous path of medical school with resolve, eventually finding her calling at Phoenix Children's Hospital. To the outside world, her life with Dave, a fellow high school athlete and small business owner, appeared seamless. Yet, behind the closed doors of their home, a different narrative was unfolding. Close friends would later recount that Laura lived in a state of quiet apprehension, navigating a relationship marked by mental and emotional strife. The turning point emerged in April of 2013, a discovery that Dave had been maintaining a parallel life, including a child with another woman, served as a catalyst for Laura to reclaim her independence. She began the meticulous, often dangerous work of preparing for a divorce. She sought to shield her children and her future from a man whose behavior had become increasingly erratic. The events of April 21st, 2013, serve as a harrowing marker in this timeline. On that Sunday, Laura contacted the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office from a local movie theater. She detailed a terrifying altercation, alleging that she had been held against her will and physically restrained by Dave. Though an audio recording of the incident exists and a subsequent order of protection was granted, the legal system ultimately deemed the evidence insufficient to proceed with criminal charges. For the 5 months that followed, Laura lived in a state of suspended animation, moving between her work at the hospital and the safety of a rental property. Her friends described a woman who was constantly looking over her shoulder, perpetually anxious, and navigating severe financial stressors that seemed tied to Dave's various business ventures. The fear was palpable. In November of 2013, less than a month before her death, a neighbor reported a suspicious white vehicle parked in her driveway. Despite the neighbor's diligence in documenting the incident and providing a license plate number to the authorities, there is no record of an official follow-up. This singular failure by law enforcement highlights the systemic gaps that can leave victims vulnerable in their most critical hours. On the morning of December 9, 2013, the reality that everyone feared came to fruition. Laura was found unresponsive in the bathtub of her home. The scene, discovered by a nanny, was marked by unsettling details: a displaced dog gate, an unlocked back door, and a woman who had been a pillar of her community gone too soon. The ensuing investigation, however, will be defined not by the answers it found, but by the questions it failed to ask. The autopsy, conducted by the Maricopa County Medical Examiner's Office, yielded an undetermined cause of death. Despite the presence of trauma on her body, no definitive conclusions were drawn. Toxicology screens, limited in scope, returned clean results, and medical history regarding a purported heart attack 2 years prior remained muddled, with no physical evidence of cardiac distress found during the examination. Perhaps most distressing to those seeking justice is the revelation regarding the medical professionals involved. The lead medical examiner and the laboratory director associated with the office during that period were both figures later entangled in controversies regarding the handling of evidence and professional conduct, casting a long shadow of doubt over the integrity of the findings. The case of Laura Sweetman was officially marked as inactive by September of 2014. The investigators never pursued the accounts of the men Laura was dating, never fully vetted the alibis of those in her orbit, and never reconciled the discrepancies between the scene of the death and the medical reports. The absence of thorough investigation left an open wound for Laura's family and friends, a community that remembers her not as a tragedy, but as a vibrant, resilient woman who deserved the dignity of the truth. In our collective pursuit of justice, we are reminded that systems are only as effective as the people who uphold them. When authorities fail to document investigate, or provide the transparency required. The burden of truth falls upon the community. Today, the call is not for vengeance, but for the one thing that has been denied for over a decade: a genuine, comprehensive, and objective look at the facts surrounding the death of a brilliant doctor. It is a plea for the Gilbert Police Department and relevant oversight bodies to acknowledge the inconsistencies that have lingered since 2013 and provide the family of Laura Sweetman with the answers they have been seeking for years. Her life, her career, and her resilience deserve nothing less than a legacy of justice rather than a legacy of undetermined silence. The summer of 1969 in Racine County, Wisconsin, remains etched in the collective memory of the community, not merely as a season transition, but as a threshold of a tragedy that has lingered for over 5 decades. It was a time when the peaceful, overcast days along the Root River, often spent by families near the old steel trestle bridge on 8 Mile Road, were irrevocably shattered by the discovery of human remains. This is the story of Stephanie Casper, an 18-year-old girl whose bright future and inherent kindness were silenced in an act of profound violence, leaving behind a mystery that has challenged investigators, haunted a family, and tested the resilience of a nation built on the promise of justice and community care. Stephanie was the daughter of Charles and his family, a young woman who had just graduated from high school and was standing on the precipice of adulthood. She was known for her hard-working nature and her capacity to include others, acting as a protector for the younger children in her neighborhood. She had secured a position as a waitress at a popular local restaurant, Mark's Big Boy, an anchor of her daily routine. Beneath her quiet, responsible exterior, Stephanie was navigating complexities of young love, having formed a serious connection with a serviceman named John. Their relationship, kept discreet, was a testament to the private struggles individuals faced in an era still grappling with profound social shifts. On the night of her disappearance, Stephanie had finished her shift at 12:30 in the morning. She left the restaurant with her brown leather purse, intending to head home. When she did not arrive, her family initially assumed she was staying with friends, a common occurrence during that summer. It was only when her supervisor inquired about her absence that the alarm was raised. The discovery of her remains by a family fishing near the condemned bridge on July 9th revealed the work of someone possessing chilling skill and methodical patience. The dismemberment was deliberate, performed with anatomical precision, suggesting the involvement of an individual with significant experience. Despite an extensive search, parts of her remained lost, a detail that deepened the sorrow of the investigation. The subsequent search for evidence spanned nearly 25 miles, from the restaurant in Milwaukee to the rural roads of Franklin and the river banks of Racine. Along the way, investigators recovered fragments of her life, a gold clutch, an appointment book, and photographs that suggested a killer moving through the landscape with purpose. The investigation quickly pulled detectives in disparate directions. Rumors swirled around those closest to her, including her father, who, despite his grief, faced intense scrutiny. Others turned their attention to the staff at the restaurant where Stephanie worked. A cook named Michael Bartelt became a focal point, particularly after discrepancies emerged regarding his whereabouts and his claims of a planned trip to Hawaii. For years, these threads were pulled and examined, only to fray under the weight of insufficient evidence and the limitations of forensic technology at the time. The case of Stephanie Casper is a lens through which we see the evolving face of American criminal justice. It is a story marked by jurisdictional barriers between Milwaukee, Franklin, and Racine, and the tireless, often thankless labor of officers like Lieutenant Brian Van Sack. Over the years, the investigation has seen numerous leads, from anonymous tips regarding troubled individuals to the chilling accounts of a man named Wilbert Mackey, whose own children alleged a legacy of terror. Through it all, the Casper family has carried the burden of an unsolved loss, demonstrating a resilience that speaks to the strength of the American spirit. They have lived with the knowledge that the person responsible for their pain may have walked among them, unrecognized and unpunished. The quest for truth has not faltered. In recent years, advancements in DNA technology have provided new avenues for inquiry. Even as the biological samples recovered from the scene, including a towel found in a sun-kissed box and a military-style jacket discovered near the river, have yielded only partial profiles. Every exclusion, while disappointing, is a step toward refining the scope of the investigation. The tragedy has also crossed paths with other cold cases across the country, prompting detectives to look for patterns beyond their own borders. A recent connection to an investigation involving a serial offender with ties to the Midwest has brought a new sense of urgency, proving that the search for Stephanie remains a living, breathing effort. Today, as we reflect on this case, we are reminded of the importance of community vigilance and the necessity of keeping the memory of victims alive. Stephanie was more than a case file. She was a daughter, a sister, and a friend whose potential was stolen. Her story is a solemn reminder of the work that remains to be done to ensure the safety of our youth and the pursuit of justice for those who can no longer speak for themselves. The Racine County Sheriff's Office continues to welcome information, urging anyone who may hold a piece of this puzzle to come forward. By choosing to remember and by continuing to seek answers, the community honors the life of Stephanie Casper, reaffirming the belief that even in the face of decades of silence, the truth remains a goal worth striving for. The resilience displayed by those seeking justice is a testament to the unwavering commitment to protect and serve, ensuring that no life is ever truly forgotten. How would you like to proceed with the next phase of this journalistic investigation? The disappearance of Melissa Casillas remains a haunting puzzle that continues to ripple through the quiet landscapes of Taos County, New Mexico. On the afternoon of Thursday, June 26, 2025, the life of a devoted mother and administrative assistant at Los Alamos National Laboratory vanished into the high desert air, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions, fractured narratives, and a community yearning for closure. For her daughter, Sierra, the nightmare began with a simple, unsettling realization. Her mother's digital footprint, a constant, comforting presence, had simply ceased to exist. When Sierra arrived at their home that afternoon, she found a scene that defied conventional explanation. The family vehicle was parked in the driveway, and inside, everyday items, a paycheck, keys, and personal effects lay undisturbed. Most confounding, however, were Melissa's mobile phones, which had been factory reset to their original, pristine state. The days that followed saw the emergence of two deeply divergent perspectives, creating a chasm between those who love her. In one corner stands her husband, Mark Casillas, who has consistently maintained that Melissa, weighed down by mounting financial pressures and professional strain, chose to walk away from her life. He speaks of a woman overwhelmed, a marriage facing silent storms, and a desperate desire for a fresh start. In the other corner, Melissa's parents, the Mondragons, and her extended family cling to the firm belief that Melissa was a victim of foul play. They point to the inconsistency of her leaving without a word, the suspicious absence of her personal items, and the troubling nature of the information surrounding her final hours. The investigation has been marked by a series of complexities that have challenged both law, enforcement, and the families involved. A critical moment occurred when a tipster reported seeing a woman resembling Melissa walking along Highway 518. While initial dismissal of this lead due to conflicting descriptions, some stating she appeared to be staggering, while others later provided video evidence of a woman walking briskly, left many frustrated. It underscored the difficulty of piecing together a timeline from fragmented accounts. The discovery of video footage later revealed Melissa walking alone on that highway, alive and purposeful, yet this revelation only deepened the mystery rather than resolving it. Amidst the sorrow and the search, the spirit of the American heartland shines through in the resilience of those who refuse to stop looking. The Casillas and Mondragon families, despite their profound disagreements on what transpired, share a singular, agonizing bond, the hope for Melissa's safe return, or, at the very least, the truth Their efforts to raise awareness, canvass neighborhoods, and organize searches speak to a community that stands together in the face of uncertainty. The local law enforcement, led by agents who have navigated the difficult task of balancing potential foul play with the lack of definitive evidence, continues to keep the case active, classifying Melissa as missing and endangered. The narrative is further complicated by broader, unsettling theories circulating within the digital landscape, connecting Melissa's case to a string of disappearances among professionals in specialized research fields. While such theories often blur the line between speculation and systemic concern, they reflect a deep-seated public desire to find pattern and reason in the face of the inexplicable. Yet, as the calendar turned into 2026, the search for Melissa Casillas remains an ongoing endeavor. It is a story that defies simple categorization, a testament to the fragile threads of human connection, and a persistent call to action for anyone who might hold even the smallest, overlooked piece of the puzzle. The journey to understand what truly happened that June afternoon is far from over, carried forward by the unwavering love of a family that refuses to let her memory fade into the silence of the New Mexico mountains. In the quiet, tight-knit town of Winnsboro, Texas, where the rhythm of life is set by the shared knowledge of neighbors and the steady pulse of community connection, the brutal murder of 19-year-old Brittany McGlone in May of the year 2007 remains a harrowing shadow over the local landscape for those who live in the heart of the piney woods, where the bonds of kinship and the echoes of church bells usually offer a sense of security. The loss of a young woman with dreams of nursing school was not just a tragedy. It was a profound rupture in the collective spirit of the town. This is a story of community grappling with the silence that follows an unspeakable act, the pursuit of justice that spans nearly 2 decades, and the enduring resilience of a family refusing to let a life be forgotten. On that fateful mid-afternoon of May 4th, 2007, the peaceful routine of the McGlone family was shattered by a frantic phone call. Brittany, a diligent young woman who balanced an overnight shift at the local distribution center with a second job at a discount store to save for her future, had broken her typical pattern. Instead of returning home to rest, she had stayed at the residence of her boyfriend, Jeff Stogner. When Jeff returned from a trip to collect his grandmother, he discovered Brittany in his bedroom, having been struck repeatedly with what authorities later identified as a blunt, heavy object, likely a tire iron or crowbar. The scene was devastating, marked by a lack of forced entry and an eerie, lingering sign that the perpetrator had felt comfortable enough in the home to utilize the shower before vanishing. As the Wood County Sheriff's deputies began their investigation, the small circle of those who knew Brittany's whereabouts became the primary focus. In a town where everyone knows everyone, suspicion is a heavy burden to carry. Investigators initially looked toward the immediate periphery, her boyfriend, his family, and those who frequented their home. Yet, as each alibi was meticulously cross-referenced with surveillance footage and witness accounts, the complexity of the case grew. The investigation faced layers of obfuscation, ranging from questionable timelines to the revelation of long-buried secrets, including the distressing history of sexual abuse Brittany had suffered at the hands of a relative, an ordeal she had only shared with a select few. The trajectory of the investigation eventually shifted toward a name that had initially seemed peripheral, yet increasingly fit the chilling profile of a predator, Chad Carr. Carr, who was 25 years old at the time and involved with a boyfriend's sister, was a figure who moved through a community with a history of violence that could no longer be ignored. In the year 2001, Carr had been responsible for a brutal assault on a woman in the same town, striking her with a jackhandle, a weapon chillingly consistent with the nature of the attack on Brittany. While Carr had served time for his past offenses, his release and subsequent behavior raised alarm bells for those looking back at the evidence with the benefit of hindsight. For the family of Brittany McGlone, the years that followed were a grueling test of patience and persistence. They watched as leads cooled and as the initial momentum of the investigation dissipated. Yet they never wavered in their commitment to uncovering the truth. The case took on a renewed sense of urgency with the arrival of Sheriff Kelly Cole and Captain Mike Shilson in recent years. Recognizing that the path to justice had been obstructed by administrative failures and incomplete presentations of evidence, these officers committed themselves to a comprehensive review of the case files. From the initial forensic findings to the long-ignored witness statements, the frustration of the family was compounded by the legal hurdles that arose. When an arrest was finally made in the year 2022, charging Chad Carr with capital murder, it felt for a brief moment that a door had finally opened. However, the subsequent grand jury process, which resulted in a no bill, sent a shockwave through the community. The investigators involved, however, maintained that the evidence collected, including specific DNA samples found in the home that do not belong to the residents, remains a focal point of their ongoing efforts. They continue to pursue the truth, undeterred by past setbacks, knowing that the integrity of the process is the only way to honor Brittany's memory. Today, as the billboard in Sulphur Springs, Texas, serves as a poignant reminder of the unsolved crime, the story of Brittany McGlone stands as a testament to the pain of a family and the determination of a community to reach for closure. In a nation that prides itself on the spirit of resilience and the pursuit of truth, the people of Wood County continue to hold space for the young woman whose life was stolen too soon. The investigation remains active, and the call for information persists, proving that even in a circle that once felt impossibly closed, the light of justice can eventually find a way in. For anyone with information that might bring peace to the McGlone family, the Wood County Crime Stoppers and the local sheriff's office remain the vital conduits for a resolution that has been long sought and is still deeply deserved. Through every missed birthday and every passing year, the resolve remains unshaken. The truth must be told, and the memory of Brittany must be preserved with the dignity and justice that she was denied, and that his impact will continue to be felt for as long as we carry his memory in our hearts. May the peace that he found in life be the peace that now surrounds him in eternity. May his family find the comfort and solace they need to navigate their journey forward. And may we all carry a piece of Steve Clayton's spirit with us as we go about our own lives, seeking to make the world just a little bit brighter, one act of kindness at a time. This brings the story of Steve Clayton to a close, a life defined by love, a legacy defined by generosity, and a memory defined by joy. He was a man of extraordinary character, a life of incredible impact, and a heart that will be missed more than words can express. His story remains a vital part of the lives of all who knew him, a reminder of the fragility of life and the immense power of love. May we all hold his memory dear, and may his story continue to inspire us to be the best versions of ourselves, just as he was. Steve Clayton, thank you for the life you lived, the love you shared, and the impact you made. You were a gift to all who knew you, and your legacy will live on forever in the hearts and minds of those you touched. Rest in peace, knowing that your life was a triumph for the human heart. The story is told, the legacy remains, the memory endures. And through it all, Steve Clayton, the man with the big heart, continues to inspire us to live with the same passion, the same generosity, and the same love that defined his existence. We conclude this tribute with gratitude, with respect, and with a lasting appreciation for the life of Steve Clayton. He was a man who made a difference, a man who left the world better than he found it, and a man who will be remembered with love, always. His journey has come to an end, but the light he kindled in the lives of those he touched continues to burn bright. He is remembered today, tomorrow, and always as a man who loved deeply, gave generously, and lived fully. May his memory be a blessing to us all. As we turn the final page of the story, we are reminded that every life is a story, and it is up to us to make that story one of meaning and impact. Steve Clayton did exactly that, and for that, he will be forever remembered with love and admiration. The end of the story is not the end of the legacy. Steve Clayton's life continues to resonate. His influence continues to grow. and his memory continues to be a source of comfort and inspiration. He was a man who lived, who loved, and who left a mark that will never fade. In the quiet of the night, as we look up at the stars, we remember Steve. We remember his laugh, his voice, and his unwavering devotion to his family. We remember the man who showed us what it means to live with purpose, to love with intention, and to leave a legacy of kindness. We remember Steve Clayton, and in our memories, he lives on. This is the end of the account of Steve Clayton, a man whose life was a journey of love, of purpose, and of deep, enduring connections. He was a man who taught us that life is meant to be lived with joy, that family is meant to be held close, and that love is meant to be shared freely. We thank him for his life, we honor his memory, and we move forward carrying his legacy in our hearts. He was, and will always be, a beloved brother, a cherished uncle, a devoted mentor, and a truly remarkable man. May his spirit continue to inspire us all. The final word is one of love and remembrance. Steve Clayton, you are missed, you are loved, and you are remembered. Your story is told, your life is celebrated, and your legacy endures. May you rest in peace, forever in our hearts. With this, we conclude our retelling of the life of Steve Clayton. A life characterized by generosity, marked by love, and defined by the profound impact he had on everyone he met. It is a story that reminds us to cherish the present, to honor our relationships, and to live each day with the same grace and kindness that Steve embodied. We honor his memory by continuing to be the people he believed in, by upholding the values he cherished, and by loving as he loved. May his legacy continue to inspire and uplift all who carry his story forward. The story of Steve Clayton, the man who lived with his heart wide open, is now fully told. May it serve as a beacon of light, a source of inspiration, and a reminder of the enduring power of love. Rest in peace, Steve. Your life was a journey worth taking, and your legacy is a treasure worth keeping. The narrative is complete. The remembrance is honored. The legacy is secured. Steve Clayton, a life well lived, will be remembered with love forever. May we all carry his spirit with us, letting it guide our steps as we seek to build lives that are just as meaningful and full of love as his. The end of the story, but the beginning of a legacy that will continue to shine. Steve Clayton, rest in love. We remember, we honor, we celebrate the life of Steve Clayton, a gift to us all. May the memory of Steve Clayton remain a constant source of inspiration, a reminder of the beauty of a life well lived, and a testament to the enduring power of a generous heart. The story is told, the memory is kept, the legacy is honored. Steve Clayton, you will be remembered always. With love and with the deepest respect, we conclude this tribute to a life that touched so many. Steve Clayton, you were and always will be truly remarkable. The final chapter is written. The story remains. The man is remembered. Steve Clayton, rest in peace. He lived with purpose. He loved with passion. He left a legacy that will never fade. Steve Clayton, you were the very best of us. We remember you, Steve. We remember you with love, with joy, and with a deep, abiding gratitude for the time we shared. You will be in our hearts forever. The story of a life is rarely measured by the years one spends on this earth, but rather by the warmth and kindness one leaves behind in the hearts of others. This is the story of a successful and generous businessman, a man whose presence was a beacon of light to his family and friends. He was a man who worked hard, loved deeply, and lived with a spirit of unparalleled enthusiasm. He was known to greet every person with a warm and energetic hello, a simple phrase that became a signature of his welcoming nature. To understand a man, one must look at the way he lived. He was a pillar of support for his siblings and a mentor to the young men who sought his guidance in the world of business. He possessed an incredible capacity for generosity, sharing not just his resources, but more importantly, his time. He was a man who believed in the power of connection, and he found his greatest joy in the simple, everyday moments spent with those he held dear. His journey reached a beautiful and emotional milestone on the 10th of March, 2007, in the city of Miami. It was the wedding day of his sister, Rosemary Clayton. For Rosemary, this day was defined by the presence of her eldest brother, Steve. With their father having passed away 11 months prior to the wedding, Steve had stepped into the role of the father figure, a role he had occupied throughout his life. He was 10 years older than his youngest sister, and as she grew, he was always there, a protective and loving influence. Walking down the aisle that day, accompanied by Steve, was a moment that Rosemary would never forget. It was a day filled with both joy and the bittersweet memory of their father. Steve, ever the supportive brother, made sure that the day was as perfect as possible. He was the one who kept everyone calm, the one who kept everyone laughing, and the one who ensured that the spirit of their father remained a part of the celebration. During the reception, Steve gave a speech that came straight from his heart. It was unscripted, genuine, and deeply emotional. He spoke of the responsibility he felt to honor their father and to take care of his sister. He expressed his love for his new brother-in-law, William, and his happiness at seeing Rosemary so fulfilled. It was a testament to his character that he could so effortlessly blend humor with sincerity. Following the wedding, Steve continued to seek a companion who could match his zest for life, his intellectual curiosity, and his spiritual depth. He was a man who dreamed of finding a partner who could truly stand by his side, someone with whom he could build a future. In late 2009, he decided to embrace a change of pace and moved to North Carolina. It was there, amidst the beauty of nature and the promise of a new chapter, that he met Lana Walsh. Lana was a nurse who grew up in Oklahoma. She was much quieter than Steve, a stark contrast to his boisterous and energetic personality. Yet, their differences seemed to complement one another. Steve was immediately taken with her, and he could not hide the depth of his feelings. He was very much in love, and for the first time in a long time, he seemed to find a sense of peace and grounding. They shared a life filled with affection, always holding hands, always finding reasons to be close. They welcomed new additions to their family in the form of dogs, including an Italian greyhound named Guinness and later, a companion named Sadie. The couple eventually moved to a stunning home on the banks of Lake Wylie in South Carolina. It was a place that felt like a postcard, a beautiful setting for the life they were building together. Steve took great pride in his home, decorating it with his cherished collection of art and antiques. He was a man who found beauty in objects that held meaning, and he loved sharing his home with family and friends. Life seemed perfect. There were holiday gatherings, concerts, and evenings filled with laughter. Steve was especially fond of his nieces and nephews, and he was the type of uncle who would get down on the floor to play games, always maintaining a playful and youthful heart. However, life has a way of introducing trials when they are least expected. In June of 2018, Steve suddenly fell ill. He began to experience episodes of dizziness, nausea, and vertigo. It was a concerning development for a man who had always been so physically active and full of vitality. Lana, utilizing her background as a nurse, encouraged him to rest. He remembered feeling confused and disoriented, describing an experience where he lost 36 hours of time. His sister, Rosemary, reached out to inquire about his health, only to be reassured that Lana was caring for him. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the worst had passed. By the 4th of July, Steve appeared to be back to his normal, vibrant self, hosting a party where he danced and celebrated with his characteristic joy. Yet, this recovery was short-lived. On the 21st of July, 2018, the world lost a remarkable man. The events that followed were shrouded in shock and profound confusion. The initial assessment suggested a natural cause of death, but the intuition of his family, coupled with disturbing discoveries within the home, led to a deeper investigation when his family visited the house. They were met with signs of neglect that were entirely inconsistent with the man Steve was. The state of his living conditions, the missing personal items, and a lack of clarity regarding his final wishes created a web of suspicion that could not be ignored. Determined to find the truth, the family requested an autopsy and a toxicology report. The results were devastating and unexpected. The analysis revealed that Steve had been poisoned with tetrahydrozoline, the active ingredient found in eye drops. It was a substance that, when ingested, could lead to severe illness and, in high doses, could be fatal. It became clear that this was not a natural death. The ensuing investigation revealed a chilling reality. Lana had been administering the substance, causing Steve to suffer over the course of several days. She eventually admitted to her actions, claiming that she had been motivated by resentment. Though the evidence pointed toward a calculated act, the betrayal was complete. A man who had dedicated his life to generosity, to mentoring, and to the love of his family, had been taken away in a manner that defied all reason and kindness. In the aftermath, the legal process moved forward. Lana Clayton was charged, and in January of 2020, she accepted a plea deal for voluntary manslaughter and tampering with a food product. She was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Yet, no sentence could ever truly balance the loss of a life as vibrant and meaningful as the life of Steve Clayton. The family was left to grapple with the void left by his absence. They remembered his laughter, his stories, and his unwavering dedication to those he loved. They remembered him as the man who was always there, the one who held the family together through the loss of their father, and the one who lit up every room he entered. His legacy, however, remains untarnished. It is a legacy of kindness, of hard work, and of an enduring love for his family. While his life was cut short, the impact he had on the world, the young men he mentored, and the joy he brought to those who knew him will continue to resonate for years to come. He was a man who lived fully, and he is remembered with the deep respect and love that he so richly deserved. This is a story of a successful and generous businessman. Hello. He was a man with a warm heart, always ready to help those around him with all his might. In a chance encounter, he met a nurse who possessed a heart just as big as his own. At first, she struck those who met her as a very quiet person, but also very sweet and kind. That meeting completely captivated him, and he fell in love at first sight. He could not hide the intense feelings he had for her. He loved her very much. However, when mysterious sickness began to consume their marriage, we just knew that there was something very wrong. Money is no protection. This is not a natural death. Welcome. Tonight we celebrate the joining of two wonderful people. It is March 10th, 2007 in Miami. A big day for bride Rosemary Clayton and her family. She is finally marrying the love of her life, William Leslie. That is Rosie's oldest brother, 52-year-old Steve Clayton. He proudly walks her down the aisle. 11 months prior to my wedding, we lost our dad. I asked my brother if he would step in. Of course, there were a lot of tears. I could not imagine anybody else standing in place for my dad. Who gives this woman to be married to this man? I do, in the memory of my father. It was sentimental to be gathered at something so special where my dad was not present. With their father's passing, Rosie's brother Steve is now the head of the family. And though he has never had children of his own, he has always been a father figure to his siblings. When my father and mother were married, Steve was just about 2 or 3 years old. He had 4 sisters, and I am the youngest. He was 10 years older than me, so there really was not a moment when Steve was not in my life. Steve was my big brother, and he was my hero. He was everything a little girl would want in a big brother. He played football, he wrestled in high school, and so that really made him bigger than life for me. After high school, Steve graduates college with a degree in finance and quickly matures into a shrewd businessman. Steve and a partner started a company called Physical Therapy Resources. That eventually became a national company with physical therapy centers all over the country. Steve and I met at work. He was in the hospital, and I was in the same hospital, and that is how we met and became friends. He was very successful and eventually sold his interest in his business, and basically from that point on he was retired. His goal was to retire at the age of 40. He missed it by 1 year. He retired when he was 41. Selling his business frees up Steve to do whatever he wants, and what he wants to do is give back. He would mentor such a large group of young men, helping them start up a business or helping them find out what direction they want their life to go. Steve was extremely generous with not only his resources, but with his time. And Steve always has time for his family. Rosie films as Steve teases their Uncle Max. It is special. My dad was not so funny. He was more serious. Serious, much more serious. He was always serious. But where did that money come from? Steve? I do not know. And when his sister Rosie gets married, it is Steve's good humor that makes him the life and soul of the occasion. Please get up, Steve. Steve was always the first guy to get up to give a toast anywhere. Hello, hello, hello. It was always ad-lib for him from the heart. This is my way of getting away from the emotional stuff. William, thank you so much. I am not going to look at you. Thank you so much for making my sister so happy. And my dad, Steve is never one to hide his emotions. My dad told me before he passed to take care of my sister, to honor you, and he loved you very much. I have to get serious here. All right, I am cool. All right, you guys are great companions. You are great partners, and my sister, I have never seen her happier. After the speeches, Steve steps up for the father-daughter dance. He came up, and we got ready to dance. And before the music started, we had a very, very powerful moment. A surprise recording of their dearly departed father plays out. The best moment of my day was when you were climbing my knee. You would say, "Daddy, I love you." I miss those days. I really do, because I love you too. He had so many duties that day. He was my dad. He was the best man. He was the entertainment. He was the one that kept everyone calm, kept everyone laughing. He was a natural at it. Despite his success and close network of family and friends, Steve's own romantic life has been rocky. He looked for a partner that was as focused and determined and loving and caring as he was. And that is a tall order to fill. Now 52, his family figures it will take a very special person to sweep him off his feet. He was completely and utterly in love. His family felt that Steve had found himself well-grounded with Lana, achieving a certain profound sense of peace that had previously eluded him. Steve Clayton had traveled to North Carolina, seeking a change from his old life, and in the process, he had found a whole new, beautiful future. Years earlier, when Steve Clayton danced with his sister at her wedding, he had quietly dreamed of finding his own special someone. 6 years after that heartfelt dance, he was finally ready to marry the love of his life. It was a lovely, crisp day in November 2013. Many family members and friends had traveled all the way to North Carolina just to be present and to share in the joy of that beautiful day with him. Steve, true to his generous nature, made it incredibly special for everyone in attendance. Lana and Steve's wedding took place right at their lovely house in Charlotte. It was an absolutely stunning event. The guests could physically see the love beaming from both of them. Shortly after tying the knot, the happy couple decided to relocate and search for their ultimate forever home. They found it just over the border in South Carolina, situated perfectly on the tranquil banks of Lake Wylie. The house looked like something plucked straight out of a beautiful postcard. It was a gorgeous, ocean blue home sitting on a pristine piece of lakefront property. It was breathtakingly lovely. The couple eagerly set about refurbishing their new space, decorating it meticulously with Steve's cherished collection of artworks and rare antiques. Steve was the kind of person who viewed objects as very personal treasures. He was incredibly proud of his possessions, as each item was entirely unique and held a special story. The move to Lake Wylie allowed the couple to fully indulge in their shared love of nature. If there was a fun, outdoors activity to do, Steve was guaranteed to be the very first one out the door, fully gung-ho and ready for adventure. Their relocation to South Carolina also brought the pair much closer to Steve's extended family. Nick French, who had officially become Steve's nephew after marrying his niece in 2010, spent a great deal of time with the couple. Nick and his wife hung out with Steve and Lana constantly after the move. They shared wonderful dinners, attended lively concerts together, and made a point to celebrate every single holiday as a tight-knit group. The new home was also conveniently located just a 30-minute drive from Lana's son and her beloved grandchildren. The pair absolutely never said no to an opportunity for babysitting. Steve possessed a magical way with children, largely because he had always remained a joyful child at heart. He was the kind of guy who would happily get down on the floor and play endless games with the kids, whether they were singing nursery rhymes or playing tag. There was truly never a dull moment in the Clayton household when the children were visiting. Lana would often film these precious moments. In one video, Steve hilariously attempted to describe the rules of limbo while Lana's twin granddaughters watched, with innocent curiosity. "So there's a stick, and I gotta go like that," Steve animatedly explained, bending backward. "And I have gotta go under the stick, and I gotta get real low to get under the stick. It is a game. It is a dance." Lana would giggle behind the camera, thoroughly tickled by his antics, even if the twins were sometimes more interested in eating their sweet ice cream. Steve simply enjoyed playing all kinds of games, whether it was a highly competitive round of Scrabble or a silly, messy children's game involving pie-throwing contraptions. "You want me to get in, do you not?" he would playfully taunt the kids. "Just spin the spinner, and then turn the handles many times. Put your chin on the thing." He was a huge, lovable teddy bear, and the children absolutely adored hanging on to him. Lana was always game for the fun as well, laughing brightly as the toys popped and the family cheered. 5 glorious years into their marriage, Steve and Lana appeared to be absolutely thriving. They were the picture of domestic bliss, surrounded by a supportive family, beautiful scenery, and boundless love. Life on Lake Wylie was idyllic until the warm summer of 2018. In June, Steve suddenly fell inexplicably ill. A man who was usually a beacon of vibrant energy began complaining of severe dizziness, citing overwhelming vertigo. He mentioned that his ear ached terribly and that a wave of nausea had washed over him. He even became physically sick out in the beautiful yard he cherished so much. Lana expressed deep concern, noting that she felt truly terrible for him. She recalled that he had experienced minor issues with vertigo in the distant past, but nothing of this magnitude. Steve himself admitted he felt incredibly ill and could not pinpoint exactly what was wrong. He only remembered that he had been happily working out in his garden when the world began to spin. He felt a throbbing headache and assumed he might have accidentally contracted a severe case of sunstroke from the intense southern heat. Relying on her professional background as a nurse, Lana insisted that the absolute best remedy for Steve was immediate and prolonged bed rest. According to Steve, he remembered lying down in his comfortable bed, only to open his eyes and realize that a staggering 36 hours had mysteriously passed. Deeply worried by this highly unusual event, Rosie immediately called Lana to see if her sister-in-law could explain Steve's frightening mystery. Illness? Rosie questioned the situation. No, it was incredibly odd for any healthy person of any age to completely lose 36 hours of time to sleep. Lana calmly reassured her, stating that Steve was going to be perfectly fine. She promised that she was keeping a very close watch on him and ensuring his absolute safety. Though Steve had never been incapacitated like this before, Lana maintained her belief that her husband was simply suffering from extreme exhaustion. Rosie felt a comforting sense of reassurance knowing that Lana, with all her specialized medical knowledge as a trained nurse, was there to take care of her brother in every conceivable way. It seemed, for a brief moment, that Steve's larger-than-life energy had finally demanded a period of rest. Fortunately, just 2 short weeks later, it appeared that Lana's dedicated treatment had worked miracles. Steve was entirely back to his old, boisterous self. He enthusiastically threw a massive, spectacular party for the 4th of July. That holiday celebration was just as incredible as every other party the family had attended at the beautiful lake house. Steve was his normal, highly affectionate, energetic self, Everybody in attendance had a truly fantastic time. Videos from the day showed Steve happily dancing with Lana, celebrating life in high style. He pulled Lana into his arms right away, and the rest of the guests quickly followed suit, joining in the joyful dance. The family watched them hug and kiss, observing a couple that seemed completely and utterly in love. Things were incredibly good at the Clayton home. Absolutely no one harbored even the slightest doubt that Lana and Steve's lives together were destined to be exceptionally happy and wonderfully long. The illusion of a perfect, unending summer was shattered just weeks later. On July 21st, 2018, a frantic emergency call came into the York County 911 dispatch center. Police units swiftly arrived on the serene lakeside scene. Body camera footage recorded by the responding officer, Sergeant Day, captured a deeply somber reality. As the officers walked through the grand front door of the picturesque house, they found Steve Clayton lying motionless right at the bottom of the elegant grand staircase. Tragically, at that moment, it was abundantly clear that he was gone. He was dead. The officers spoke in gentle, hushed voices. They did this out of deep respect, as Lana Clayton was sitting just around the corner, appearing entirely distraught and crying uncontrollably. The officers wanted to ensure they did not say anything unnecessarily disturbing to the grieving widow. Sergeant Day knew he needed to have a gentle but thorough conversation with Lana to determine exactly what had transpired in the quiet house. Ma'am, I am Sergeant Day. I am going to be here for just a little while until the coroner gets here, he explained softly. Lana, visibly shaking, accepted his presence. Through her tears, Lana told Sergeant Day a harrowing story. She explained that Steve had been suffering from crippling dizziness for 2 entire days. She stated that he had been very ill with intense vertigo once again. According to her account, she had found him on Thursday morning when he attempted to stand up, only become dangerously dizzy and collapse. She claimed she had to physically help him up the stairs to their bedroom, and since that terrible moment, he had not been back downstairs. Sergeant Day asked gently, "Miss Clayton, you were outside? You were working outside?" Lana nodded tearfully. "I was mowing the lawn real quick, and when I came in, I found him. I am so sorry. I tried to put a blanket underneath him, but I could not move him." Lana conveyed that, despite all of her extensive medical training, she found herself entirely unable to render life-saving aid to her husband. She explained that absolute panic had set in when she realized she could not help him. Hearing a motorcycle passing by outside, she immediately ran out of the house to frantically wave someone down to call emergency services. Meanwhile, Nick French, Steve's beloved nephew, was on duty working as a police officer when he received the devastating news. His mother called him, her voice trembling as she delivered the words, "Uncle Steve died." Nick was struck by a profound wave of disbelief. He knew the call was real, but the magnitude of the loss simply refused to sink in. He rushed to the house as quickly as humanly possible. The entire drive there, his mind raced with 2 agonizing questions. How and why? When Rosie received the phone call from her nephew, she was absolutely paralyzed with shock. Nick repeated the words, but to Rosie, it was simply not possible. How could her strong, vibrant brother be gone? She refused to believe it. With Rosie located 700 miles away, Nick and his local family members immediately rallied around the grieving Lana. Nick felt an awful, heavy sorrow, knowing how deeply Lana loved his uncle. He pushed his own grief aside, thinking only of the unimaginable pain Lana must be experiencing after finding her husband collapsed. On the floor, Lana repeatedly expressed her fearful theory that Steve's severe vertigo must have caused a tragic, accidental fall down the tall staircase. As part of standard procedure, Sergeant Day carefully checked the surrounding area for any signs that Steve might have been attacked or involved in a physical altercation. While the scene initially suggested a sad but natural medical death, the officers had to be absolutely certain. Sergeant Day proceeded to walk upstairs to observe the rest of the house. Navigating the massive, beautiful home felt slightly unnerving, but he meticulously checked for any signs of a struggle. He found absolutely nothing. There were no signs of forced entry, no signs of another person being present, and nothing outwardly significant or suspicious. In the master bedroom, the bed sheets were heavily rumpled, but there was no evidence to suggest Steve had fought off an intruder. To the initial observers, it looked as though the cause of death would remain an unfortunate, but medically straightforward conclusion for the county coroner. When the coroner arrived and examined Steve, they noted an absence of contusions or major bruises that would typically suggest a violent tumble down a wooden staircase. It appeared instead that Steve had somehow managed to make it to the very bottom of the stairs before suffering a catastrophic medical event. The coroner theorized that Steve had likely suffered a massive heart attack. They pointed to a specific blue coloration spreading across his chest as a common indicator of sudden cardiac failure. Sergeant Day returned to the living room to gently share this preliminary theory with Lana. He noted that the carpet on the stairs showed directional footprints, suggesting Steve had walked down on his own. He advised Lana not to dwell on the terrifying thought of a violent fall, suggesting instead that it was simply his time. "I think this was a day God chose," Lana whispered softly, seeking comfort in her faith. Chapter 6. Shadows of Suspicion. While Lana attempted to digest the heartbreaking news, Nick and his family stepped in to help clean and organize the beautiful home. They wanted to ensure the house remained a comfortable, peaceful sanctuary for her. They knew she was going to be entirely exhausted and needed a safe place to sleep that evening. However, as the family moved upstairs to tidy the master bedroom, they were met with a truly shocking and deeply troubling discovery. Upon entering the room, a strong, overwhelming odor hit them instantly. It was the undeniable smell of profound human sickness and neglect. As they inspected the bed, they found massive, severe discoloration deeply soaked into the center of the mattress, indicating that Steve had been completely incapacitated and unable to leave his bed for what appeared to be several days. This tragic realization raised immediate, agonizing questions in Nick's mind. The sheer volume of the damage meant Steve had been suffering terribly without any mobility. The family immediately realized they had to remove the ruined mattress from the home. It was extremely heavy, burdened with the tragic evidence of Steve's final days. Working together, they managed to carry it out of the house. When Rosie finally managed to speak with Lana on the phone later that evening, she desperately needed answers. She asked how her vibrant brother could become so critically ill without anyone knowing. Lana calmly replied that he had not been feeling well for a few days. Rosie, bewildered, pressed further. "Well, why did you not call somebody? Why did you not let somebody know?" Lana quietly explained that she thought he was genuinely starting to feel much better. She also claimed that Steve had not called anyone himself because he had been sleeping very heavily and had mysteriously misplaced his beloved cell phone a full week earlier. Lana insisted the phone had been entirely missing for several days. This explanation struck a discordant chord in Rosie's heart. Her brother was never, ever without his phone. He was a successful businessman who thrived on communication. He was practically attached to his device. It went absolutely everywhere with him. It was at this precise moment that a cold, sinking feeling washed over Rosie. She felt a profound intuition that something very wrong, perhaps even sinister, was occurring, even if she could not yet comprehend exactly what it was. Adding to the growing unease, Rosie asked Lana about Steve's last will and testament. Steve and Rosie had discussed his final wishes many times over the years. Being a meticulous financial expert, Steve had made it abundantly clear that he wanted to be laid to rest in a specific, beautiful cemetery in Fort Lauderdale. However, when Rosie inquired about these plans, Lana flatly stated that there was absolutely no will to be found. Furthermore, Lana had already rapidly made her own arrangements. She announced that Steve was to be swiftly cremated, and she was already actively planning a memorial service at their home. On August 4th, 2018, Lana hosted a highly emotional memorial service for Steve. Friends, family, and the countless young men he had mentored gathered to pay their respects. The atmosphere was heavy with profound, deep sorrow. Everyone present felt an incredibly deep connection to Steve, making it exceedingly difficult to remain calm. Though it was intended to be a joyous celebration of a life incredibly well lived, the overwhelming sadness was palpable. During the gathering, however, Rosie and the extended family were stunned to discover that Lana had already aggressively begun clearing out Steve's personal belongings. She had systematically emptied his massive closet, taking all of his tailored clothes and precious personal items, and donated them entirely to the Veterans Affairs charity. Rosie was nearly knocked off her feet by the sight of endless rows of completely empty hangers. Furthermore, a significant number of Steve's expensive watches were completely missing. His cherished jewelry was gone. Most alarmingly, his sacred wedding ring had vanished. The sudden disappearance of his belongings, combined with Lana's steadfast claim that this wealthy, meticulous accountant had failed to draft a will, pushed the family's suspicions to a breaking point. There was absolutely no logic in a man so incredibly careful with his finances leaving his estate, completely unprotected. The family unanimously agreed that something terrible was being hidden. Acting on their strong collective intuition, they urgently contacted the medical examiner's office. They pleaded with the officials to perform a comprehensive autopsy. They insisted that, at the very least, a complete toxicology report needed to be run before Steve's body was permanently cremated. The medical examiner respectfully agreed to their desperate request. Detective Motes of the York County Sheriff's Office was officially notified of the family's deep, growing suspicions regarding the sudden death of Steve Clayton. The initial autopsy report arrived and, frustratingly, seemed to echo the coroner's early theory. It listed evident signs of advanced heart disease and strongly pointed toward a tragic death by natural causes. It maintained the likelihood of a massive, fatal heart attack. However, the final ruling was entirely dependent on the pending results from the toxicologist. The medical team and the police had to wait patiently for those crucial laboratory results to return before making an absolutely final determination. It would take several agonizing weeks before the blood work results finally arrived. The Clayton family waited on pins and needles, desperate for the absolute truth to emerge from the shadows. They held on to their deep conviction that something was terribly wrong. When the comprehensive toxicology report on Steve Clayton's blood was finally released, the findings were nothing short of shocking. The chemical analysis revealed distinct traces of several heavy sedatives in his system. The list included marijuana, temazepam, and Benadryl. But those sedatives were only a fraction of the devastating truth. The biggest, most horrifying shock hidden within the toxicology results was the massive presence of a chemical, compound known as tetrahydrozoline. Tetrahydrozoline is the active chemical ingredient commonly found in standard, over-the-counter eye drops used to reduce redness. Medical science dictates that tetrahydrozoline is absolutely never meant to be ingested internally. When a human consumes it in small, minor doses, it causes severe physical distress. It makes the victim feel incredibly ill, inducing intense nausea, crippling dizziness, and eventual unconsciousness. However, if administered in large, concentrated quantities, the chemical becomes extraordinarily deadly. It completely shuts down the central nervous system and rapidly limits the vital blood supply to major organs, ultimately triggering a fatal heart attack. The detectives realized with chilling clarity what had transpired. Reviewing the initial body camera footage, they noted a tall dresser situated far away from the bed, completely out of reach of a heavily sedated, incapacitated man. Resting quietly on top of that dresser was a small, innocent-looking bottle of eye drops. The fog of mystery instantly evaporated. This was undeniably not a natural death. Detective Moats knew he urgently needed to have a very serious conversation with Lana Clayton. 5 incredibly long weeks after the sudden, tragic death of her husband, Lana Clayton was brought in to be questioned by the detectives. The investigators tactfully framed the conversation, asking her to help them understand the various medications found in Steve's system. Lana confidently rattled off a long, detailed list of medications, calmly stating that Steve regularly took Benadryl. However, there was absolutely no mention of tetrahydrozoline. The drug that had silently ended Steve's vibrant life was a poisoner's dream. It is entirely colorless. It is completely odorless. And it is completely tasteless. This makes it the perfect, undetectable weapon to slip into a loved one's drink. The concentration of the chemical in Steve's blood was so incredibly high that it was definitively declared the primary cause of his death. It was a purely lethal level. The detectives gently pressed on, carefully steering the conversation. They informed Lana that a remarkably large amount of eye drop fluid had been discovered in Steve's system, and they were simply trying to get to the very bottom of the mystery. Lana's demeanor shifted. She offered a strange, unprompted detail, claiming she knew Steve would sometimes put the eye drops directly into his daily coffee. When asked what she knew about the effects of the liquid, she nervously replied that she knew it caused extreme stomach upset and diarrhea. At this critical juncture, the police were officially considering 2 primary possibilities. Either Steve had ingested the massive amount of liquid on his own, or he had been intentionally, maliciously poisoned. As the police probed deeper into the intimate dynamics of Steve and Lana's relationship, Lana began to paint a vastly different picture of her marriage. She claimed that while they sometimes had wonderful fun, she frequently felt as though she were walking on fragile eggshells. She alleged that Steve possessed a dark, hidden side and could become exceptionally nasty, verbally abusive, and prone to calling her demeaning names. She described a pattern of escalating anger, claiming she would constantly try to stay far out of his way to avoid his explosive temper. Following this revealing interview, detectives executed a thorough, meticulous search of the massive lake house. They searched intensely for any cups or glasses harboring chemical residue. They looked for financial documents, hidden journals, or absolutely anything that could help them determine the truth behind the poisoning or confirm the alleged troubles within the marriage. During this intense period of scrutiny, Lana abruptly informed an officer that she urgently wanted to speak with Detective Moats once again. Detective Moats activated his recording equipment as Lana sat down to speak her mind. She reiterated her claims that Steve had been intensely verbally and physically abusive, stating that his anger would continually build until he exploded. Then, she transitioned to the events of that fateful week. She recalled the initial incident where Steve complained of severe vertigo. She stated she was acting as his caretaker, but admitted she was harboring immense, boiling anger toward him. She recounted a past conversation with a girlfriend from work, who had casually mentioned that if you ever wanted to get even with someone, putting eye drops in their drink was a highly effective way to cause severe stomach distress. It was in this quiet interrogation room that Lana finally dropped a monumental bombshell. She confessed that she saw the small bottle resting on the table, and in a moment of blinding anger, she simply picked it up and squirted it directly into Steve's glass of drinking water. When Detective Moats calmly asked how much she had squeezed into the water, Lana admitted she squeezed the bottle extremely hard. She confessed that she believed she had emptied the entire bottle into his drink. The detective asked her about her immediate plans, offering a calm demeanor to ensure she continued speaking. Lana expressed sudden, overwhelming fear, asking the detective what would happen to her if she had indeed caused her husband's death with the eye drops. She offered no further details, stating that she simply wanted to get the terrible secret off her chest. It was a deeply damning confession. However, procedural rules meant the detectives could not formally arrest Lana at that exact moment. They respectfully left the premises. needing a brief window to get all their legal documents precisely in a row to determine the exact proper charges. They fully intended to return the very next day with official warrants for her immediate arrest. But early the following morning, the police department received a frantic emergency call from one of Lana's close neighbors. The neighbor had discovered highly concerning suicide notes left by Lana and feared she had done something terrible to herself. Knowing the police were returning to arrest her, Lana had desperately attempted to escape the incoming consequences. She had turned the gas on inside the beautiful house, retreated upstairs, and consumed a massive quantity of pills. Emergency responders found her completely unconscious in her bed. She was rushed to the local hospital, where skilled doctors managed to treat and stabilize her. Upon her official medical release from the hospital, Lana was immediately placed in handcuffs. She was formally arrested and charged with the terrible crime of murder, along with the malicious tampering of food items. The family was immediately informed of the startling arrest. A detective from York County called Nick to bring him up to speed, revealing that Lana had officially confessed to the poisoning. Nick was driving at the time and had to pull his vehicle completely over to the side of the road. The sheer weight of the absolute truth hit him like a massive ton of bricks. It was a staggering, devastating blow to his heart. When Rosie received the news, she screamed into the phone, the horrifying reality finally setting in that the woman they had embraced had taken her brother's life. On January 16th, 2020, facing an overwhelming mountain of scientific evidence, Lana Clayton stood before a judge and officially accepted a plea deal. She formally admitted her absolute guilt to the lesser charges of voluntary manslaughter and illegal tampering with a drug or food product. By accepting this deal, she avoided a highly publicized trial on the original, heavier indictment of first-degree murder. In her defense, Lana vehemently insisted that her sole knowledge of the chemical came from watching fictional television movies, believing it would only cause temporary discomfort. She maintained that she absolutely never intended for Steve to lose his life, claiming she only desired petty revenge for his alleged emotional abuse. However, Steve's fiercely loyal friends and loving family absolutely refused to buy into the narrative that Steve was ever an abusive man. They viewed her allegations as a desperate, cruel attempt to assassinate the character of a truly wonderful, generous person who could no longer defend himself. Countless individuals who had been lovingly mentored by Steve courageously came forward to testify to his magnificent, gentle nature. They swore there was absolutely no history of abuse, painting him as a remarkably gentle soul who was entirely incapable of harming another human being. They believed Lana was simply doing whatever she possibly could to save herself from an incredibly long prison sentence, or possibly even the death penalty. The dedicated prosecutors heavily relied on the undeniable scientific facts presented in the toxicology report. The medical timeline proved that Lana's story was complete fabrication. If she had administered the fatal, massive dose on Thursday morning, as she initially claimed, Steve would have perished almost immediately. The fact that he was severely incapacitated for a harrowing 3 days indicated a much more sinister reality. Lana had been methodically, continually poisoning him with small doses of the chemical over an extended period. Furthermore, Lana, a highly trained medical nurse, had absolutely never sought professional help for her husband during his prolonged suffering. Steve was known to be a meticulous, clean freak. He would never have voluntarily remained in a heavily soiled bed unless he was entirely, utterly powerless to move. With no landline phone in the house and his personal cell phone mysteriously missing, Steve was trapped. He was left entirely vulnerable, enduring a torturous decline with absolutely no way to call for rescue. The prosecution argued that finally, on Saturday, realizing she'd gone too far to turn back, Lana emptied the entire bottle into his water. After ensuring he drank the fatal dose, she casually went outside to mow the beautiful green grass. intentionally separating herself so she would not have to witness the tragic, final moments of his life. The judge listened intently to the harrowing facts. 53-year-old Lana Clayton was firmly sentenced to 25 long years in a state prison facility, though she never once admitted a deliberate intention to kill Steve. The hard, scientific facts told an entirely different, heartbreaking story. For the grieving family, it felt as though no penalty in the world would ever be truly great enough to balance the scales of justice, the methodical, deliberate nature of the crime, a trained nurse carrying out a charade of care while slowly extinguishing a vibrant life, was to them the absolute definition of monstrous behavior. The most chilling realization for the family was how incredibly close Lana had actually come to getting away with the perfect crime. If the family had not forcefully intervened and demanded a thorough autopsy and chemical analysis, the initial ruling of a natural unfortunate heart episode would have stood permanently. If Lana had simply maintained the gentle, quiet facade of a grieving widow, absolutely no one would have ever harbored any deep suspicions. While Lana maintained her narrative of an accidental death, the prosecution and the family firmly believed the deliberate act was heavily motivated by simple, cold financial gain. Without a legally binding will in the state of South Carolina, an entire estate automatically transfers directly to the surviving spouse. Lana stood to inherit absolutely everything. By simply making sure a will did not exist, a person with malicious intent could easily claim an entire fortune. In the difficult years that followed the trial, the Clayton family fought valiantly to move forward, attempting to navigate a world that was suddenly much quieter without Steve's booming voice. They gathered frequently to share beautiful, warm memories, refusing to let the darkness of his final days overshadow the brilliant, radiant light of his 60-plus years of life. They played old videotapes, smiling through their tears as they heard his familiar, joyful greeting, "Hello, hello, hello." Rosie deeply missed everything about her big brother, but mostly she missed simply hearing his comforting voice. The family fondly remembered his grand, over-the-top personality. He was a big, boisterous, gregarious character who could enter any room and instantly fill it with pure joy and boundless generosity. Steve Clayton was, by all accounts, an absolutely amazing, inspiring person. He was a man who used his tremendous success not to elevate himself, but to continuously lift up everyone around him. He taught young men how to build their dreams. He played silly games with children on the living room floor, and he always stepped up to be the steadfast rock his family needed in times of sorrow. The journey without him was incredibly difficult. The tragedy served as a profound, educational reminder to the family of the absolute preciousness of time, the critical importance of trust, and the necessity of fiercely protecting the truth. But ultimately, the thing they chose to remember most, the enduring legacy that Steve left behind, was his magnificent laughter, his incredible, unique ability to completely light up a dark room remained permanently etched in their hearts. Though his physical presence was tragically stolen from everyone who loved him, the incredible impact of his generous, loving spirit could absolutely never be erased. It lives on in every toast given, every young entrepreneur mentored, and every time someone steps up to protect their family with a brave, open heart. This is the story of a successful and remarkably generous businessman, a man whose spirit was as expansive as the ocean and whose laughter could illuminate the darkest of rooms. He was a man who greeted the world with a resounding and joyful welcome, a chorus of bright hellos that echoed in the hearts of everyone he met. His journey is one of immense love, profound connections, and an enduring legacy of kindness that even the deepest shadows could not diminish. When he eventually crossed paths with a nurse whose quiet demeanor seemed to harbor a heart as vast as his own, he fell head over heels in love. He could not conceal the overflowing affection he held for her. He was deeply and truly enamored. However, when an unforeseen darkness began to consume their marriage, The resilience of true love and the unwavering bonds of family were put to the ultimate test. Money, as they would soon discover, offered no protection against the quiet betrayals of trust. Yet, this is not merely a tale of a tragic end. It is a celebration of a life beautifully lived, a testament to a man who gave everything to those he cherished. Chapter 1, A Promise in Miami. The air was warm and filled with the sweet scent of blooming flowers on March 10th, 2007, in the vibrant city of Miami. It was a momentous day for the beautiful bride, Rosemary Clayton, and her entire family. She was finally joining her life with her great love, William Leslie. The sky was a brilliant, cloudless blue, reflecting profound joy that radiated from the gathering of family and friends. Stepping into the sunlight, proudly prepared to walk Rosie down the aisle, was her eldest brother, 52-year-old Steve Clayton. 11 months prior to this joyous wedding, the Clayton family had suffered the heartbreaking loss of their beloved father. In the wake of such a profound loss, Rosie had turned to the one person who had always stood as a pillar of strength for her. She asked her brother if he would step in and fulfill the honored role. Naturally, the request was met with a multitude of tears, both of sorrow for their absent father and of deep gratitude for the enduring love of their family. Rosie could not imagine anyone else standing in the cherished place of their dad. When the gentle music began to play and the officiant asked who presented this woman to be married, to this man, Steve spoke with a voice full of steady grace. He declared his blessing in the loving memory of their father. It was a deeply sentimental experience for everyone gathered to witness something so incredibly special, especially in a space where their father was physically absent but spiritually profoundly present. With the passing of their father, Steve had naturally transitioned into the role of the head of the family. Although he had never been blessed with children of his own up to that point, he had always served as a steadfast father figure to his beloved siblings. When their father and mother were initially married, Steve was merely 2 or 3